Minister who's offered lots of support to the Stansted defendants over the last 10 weeks and even before that. Please welcome the incredible Owen Jones.
Friends, shame on the British state, and victory to the Stansted 15. Friends, what does it say? What does it say about the system, about the social order that governs this country? That those responsible for the hostile environment, a hostile environment that victimises migrants and refugees, which led directly to the Windrush scandal, where those responsible for it kicked people out of their homes who nobody could dispute were citizens, denied them medical care, deported them from this country, that those people still get their pampered ministerial salaries and MP salaries, whilst those who fight for the rights and freedoms of migrants and refugees using the proud tradition of peaceful direct action are treated like this. It tells us the entire system is bankrupt, it's rotten, and it's got to go. Yeah! Now, friends, we've heard from my esteemed colleagues in the media about Theresa May, treating you as some sort of doughty fighter, somebody who's plunged this country into crisis after crisis. She who sent go-home vans around mixed communities. She who has persecuted refugees and migrants. She deserves no sympathy whatsoever and no solidarity. And I'll give you an example of somebody who does deserve solidarity. Rosemary, who I was proud to speak to a few months ago. She's gay, she's from Nigeria. She said, "My neighbours will put a towel around my neck and set it on fire." She's a proud, active member of Leicester's LGBT community, but the authorities refused to believe she was gay. She was locked up in Yarlswood Detention Centre for 4 months. It's a place you wouldn't wish on your enemy, a place of torture, she told me. That's who deserves our solidarity, not the Prime Minister responsible for racism and violence. Now, friends, over the last few years, we've seen a determined attempt by politicians and the British media to blame and scapegoat migrants, refugees, Muslims for all the injustices caused by the powerful, by our rotten ruling class. But I'll tell you this, it wasn't refugees and migrants and Muslims who plunged this country into economic disaster, it was the banks. It wasn't migrants and refugees and Muslims who avoided tax on a colossal scale, it was the tax dodgers. It wasn't them responsible for poverty-paying bosses, it was the poverty-paying bosses. It wasn't them responsible for stripping away secure jobs and not building homes, it was our political elite. We are no longer going to tolerate the scapegoating, the racist persecution of refugees and Muslims and migrants for all the injustices caused by those people at the top. Never again. And then it is repulsive to see that a British state responsible for so much of the global injustice, centuries of plunder and oppression and invasions, with catastrophic human misery as a consequence, and in more recent history, catastrophic war after catastrophic war, and all the brutal dictatorships they arm to the teeth, like the Saudi dictatorship, which at this very moment is dropping bombs on the people of Yemen and slaughtering children in school buses. That they export that violence but refuse to give any proper solidarity with so many of those victims. It's going to end. And the Stansted 15 are the absolute vanguard of that. And just to wrap up, this is how we know they'll win. Every right, every freedom we have won has not been given by the goodwill and generosity and charity of the powerful. It's been won by the struggle and sacrifice of people from below. like the early trade unionists who fought for the rights and dignity of working people, like the Chartists of the 19th century who fought for democracy, like those at the massacre of Peterloo in 1819, like the suffragettes now lauded as secular saints but in their time reviled and hated, vilified as anarchists and terrorists, dragged from demonstrations, thrown into dirty cells with tubes forced down their noses, like those who fought for the NHS and the welfare state in the teeth of overwhelming opposition from the powerful, like those who fought racism and sexism and homophobia. We stand on the shoulders of giants, and those giants are here today. They are the Stansted 15, and like our ancestors won, they will win as well. Let's stand together, let's show solidarity, and let's get victory in our Stansted 15 solidarity.
Thank you so much. It is incredible to see so many people here, and it just means everything to us. And to have so many people here to say that we know the only people who put people in danger were the Home Office. So I want to take you back to a moment, almost 18 months ago now, March 2017, when we were driving in the minibus to stop that flight. And something that will always stay with me was when we collectively read out the testimonies of people who we knew were going to be on that flight. I want to read one to you now. This is the exact testimony that I read as I was travelling on that minibus. Both of my parents are in the UK. They are British. I have been with them for over 5 years. But the Home Office wants to send me back to Nigeria. The Home Office says I am over age. I am now 21 years old. The Home Office says I cannot stay here with my parents anymore. My brothers are here. I am in fear to go back to Nigeria. There is fighting over land. They killed my brother. They killed my grandfather. I came to England for protection. I seek asylum here. I believed the UK could help me. I gave the Home Office all of my evidence. The Home Office know everything, but they want to deport me back to a place where I don't have anybody. Another charter flight is coming. They want to put me on it. I am scared. I won't be able to survive. I don't have any family there. I have nobody there. Is this fair? I have been detained for over 8 months. In detention, you see disabled people. I have notes from the doctor because I am pissing blood. But here there is no medical attention in the detention centre. People are dying here. I don't understand. I didn't think the UK was like this. Nobody hears our cry. We are crying. Please, we need to be rescued. Please, can anybody help us? And as we drove in that minibus, I knew that somewhere the man who had said these words was on a coach being forcibly taken to that flight. And we knew that we had to stop that flight from leaving. And when we stopped that flight, really that one flight was a window onto all deportation flights. A deportation flight leaves about once a month from the UK. And every time it leaves, there are people on it like that man. People who are being sent to face destitution, to face persecution, and sometimes to even face death. And it is the Home Office that is responsible for that.
Shame! Shame!
And that is why we will not stop fighting till these brutal, these secretive and these inhumane flights are stopped.
Hi, I'm May. I'm one of the other defendants. Thank you, Emma, for sharing that and for reminding us of that moment in the minibus. It's definitely one of the deepest moments of my life, and also it's been such an honour to be part of this action and to share the dock with the other 14 defendants over the last 10 weeks. What an amazing bunch of people. I feel really honoured. So, oh my God, please tell me what I think happened isn't what just happened. Yes, it is. I had a thing saved in my notes that I was about to read you and I've just deleted it accidentally.
I think there's a recently deleted folder.
That is great, thank you. Recently deleted folder. Little did I know. Amazing, thank you very much, nice person at the front.
Tech support.
Okay, cool. So this is an extract. It's a longish extract, but hopefully you'll be enthralled as I was. It's from an article which was in The Guardian recently, written by a person who was due to be on that flight that we stopped in March last year. He says, I first arrived in Britain in 2004, and like so many people who come here from abroad, I built a life here. As I sat in the plane at Stansted last year, I was set to be taken back to a country that I had no links to. Indeed, there is no doubt in my mind that had I been deported, I would have been destitute and homeless in Nigeria. I was terrified. Imagine it. You've lived somewhere for 13 years. Your mum, suffering with mobility issues, lives there. Your partner lives there. 2 of your children already live there, and the memory of your firstborn, who died at just 7 years old, resides there too. Your next child is about to be born there. That was my situation as we waited on the asphalt, imagining my daughter being born in a country where I'd built a life, while I was exiled to Nigeria and destined to meeting my newborn for the first time through a screen on a phone. My story was harsh, but it's no anomaly. Like many people facing deportation from the UK, my experience with the immigration authorities had lasted many years, and for the last 7 years of living here, I had been in a constant state of mental detention. A cycle of Home Office appeals and its refusal to accept my claims or make a fair decision based on the facts of my case saw me in and out of detention and permanently waiting for my status to be settled. Though the threat of deportation haunted me, it was the utter instability and racial discrimination that made me feel like I was going mad. My life in Britain has seen me rub along with countless people who find themselves the victims of the government's hostile environment for migrants and families who aren't white. Migration and deportation targets suck humanity from a system whose currency is the lives of people who happen to be born outside of the UK. Such is the determination to look tough on the issue that people are rounded up in the night and put onto brutal, secretive and barely legal charter flights. Most take off away from the public eye, 60 human beings shackled and violently restrained on each flight, with barely a thought about the life that they are dragged away from, nor the one they face upon arrival. And then in his article he speaks a bit more about the night that we stopped the plane and how initially what he felt was anger at the time, fearing that it would prolong his suffering. And then towards the end of the article he goes on to say this. I was one of the lucky few. My removal from the plane gave me 2 life-changing gifts. The first was a chance to appeal the authorities over my deportation, a case that I won on 2 separate occasions following a Home Office counter-appeal. But more importantly, the actions of the Stansted 15 gave me something even more special, the chance to be by my partner's side as she gave birth to our baby daughter, and to be there for them as they both needed extensive treatment after a complicated and premature birth. Without the Stansted 15, I wouldn't have been playing football with my 3-year-old in the park this week. It's that simple. We now have a chance to live together as a family in Britain. I just want to honour the absolute courage of the people who've been brave enough and able to stand up and speak out and to share their experiences, and also just to recognise that the few people or the few voices that we do get to hear about are only a really